All right. Good evening, everyone. I'm Dr. Chad Burkhardt with Wellery Chiropractic in Maple Grove. Tonight, we're talking about anxiety, and there is more and more information. There's more and more people talking about it, which is good. Mental health, becoming more aware of it, and we're seeing more of it in our clinic. And it's not necessarily maybe the thing that brings people in, but it's part of their kind of wellness journey and something that they would like help on in a natural way. And that's why you have a chiropractor talking to you tonight. We're going to get into some of the things that we see here, some of the causes that get your body and your nervous system to that point of having that chronic anxiety. We'll get into some technology that we use. We actually measure some of those things, and obviously what the adjustment does to the brain, which is some cool research coming out of how we can actually impact anxiety and mental health. So that's really great. Anxiety, I should say this. We are designed to have some nervousness, some anxious feelings, right? Caveman, cavewoman, we're foraging through the forest, and we gotta kind of assume that there's a tiger going to eat us, right? And so that hyper awareness, vigilance is good. It's a survival mechanism. That's what we want, right? When it's turned on early and often and in a chronic state, that's when we have that anxiety. That's when we have issues. And so when our body goes into that fight or flight mode, everything beyond that, your body's doing exactly what it should be doing. What we're going to be talking about tonight and what some of our technology measures, and we're going to get into this, is that it's a perception problem. Your body, your nervous system is perceiving danger when there's not danger. It thinks it's running from a tiger 24/7. And we have the elevated state that's releasing all these hormones. That's when we get into that chronic anxiety, and that has different effects physically, chemically, and mentally that we're going to get into as well. So let me share the screen. We'll get into some of the PowerPoint. Okay, so I start every presentation with this. It's a good picture of my team, left to right, Naomi, Jessica, and Katie. We like to think we have a very inviting space that feels comfortable, feels very homey. When you leave our presence, we want you feeling a little bit lighter than when you came in. And obviously the adjustments really help, and we're going to get into that. But we take what you're coming in with and your goals very seriously. But in the same token, we like to have a lot of fun, and we think a lot of healing can happen in those moments. So that's why I like showing this picture. So let's get into the three types of stressors. This is an exercise I bring everyone through. It's gas versus brake. So gas pedal is those stressors in our life. So we have physical, chemical, mental stress. Obviously we're talking about more the mental part of it today, but we know that a lot of physical stress can cause mental, stress and anxiety. We know that chemical stress, and that's kind of what we eat, that's caffeine, that's alcohol, can create anxiety as well. And so when your body has a lot of physical, chemical, mental stressors, it's to that analogy, it's going faster and faster. And it's harder to process things. It's harder to react to things. And eventually, when we're talking about anxiety, that's maybe we're not as cheerful. We snap back really quick. Our mood isn't great. We're at that, like I said, that elevated state where we're perceiving lots of danger because we're just going down the interstate, going 100 miles an hour. And so you are your best brake pedal. You are your kid's best brake pedal, spouses, whatever it might be. And we're going to get into some of those things that to help you slow that process down. And we are that brake pedal for you too. And we'll get into what each adjustment does is to help slow things down, bring certain awareness to certain areas of the brain, down regulate certain areas of the brain so that your body can process it, can slow things down, it can see things coming, and get you to the point where we're not in that fight or flight all the time. This is something to handle I usually do for kids, but it really applies for us adults too. This is called the perfect storm. And so we talk about that physical, chemical, mental stressors building up. And then we get into the cycle where we're just kind of, we've maybe been there before, where we're just in this loop where we just feel like we can't get out. And some of the signs, for kids is colic, but for, us, it's sleep issues, it's digestive issues, it's allergies and eczema and constantly being sick. It can cause some of these ADHD and anxiety things because that that stress in that nervous system keeps building and building, whether it be physical stress with, accidents and falls and repetitive motion and posture while we sleep and while we work, toxins, that's what we eat, what we drink, um, environmental things, medications, and then the thoughts, that's, busy lifestyle, which a lot of us have, and tech overload, which a lot of us do have as well. And so this is just representing that, that storm that builds, that stress really builds up until we get to that point where we're vibrating at a 7 or 8. And it doesn't take much for us to get to a 8, 9, 10. Quote that we live by here: you can't be in growth and protection at the same time. So this is saying you can't be processing things, you can't be healing, you can't be growing when you're in that protective state, when you're in that fight or flight state. And so we want you in that growth state. We want you in the healing state. We want your body to be able to process things in a calm manner and not underneath that umbrella of that fight or flight or that protection. So top 5 signs, what we see, I'm sure you can look on the internet, and ChatGPT has some, maybe some other things to say about this, but this is some of the things that we see. We see a lot of this sleep. And whether that's routine, I'm talking about, screen time, which is probably the biggest thing, either watching movies, shows, or being on our phones scrolling. It's harder for us to fall asleep, stay asleep, because your nervous system isn't able to completely shut down, right? So it's still vibrating, your head is kind of spinning, your body's not able to completely just kind of turn over into that parasympathetic rest, relax, heal. And so it's a lot of these are like light sleepers, and I'm one of those, because my body sometimes can't completely shut down. And we have some people that have, nightmares and even sleepwalking. And again, that's just another sign where your body's not able to switch from that fight or flight over to that rest and relax. And if we're spending all day in that fight or flight and we're releasing lots of cortisol, sometimes those cortisol bumps get in the way too. We might have a cortisol spike at 2 or 3 o'clock. We're always waking up because your body isn't regulating that very well. Emotional regulation, anxiety, right? Outbursts, overly emotional. This is when we're coming home and the spouse is asking you how your day was, and you kind of snap at them for no reason, right? Again, perception of danger, perception of a threat when there's not a threat there. And the last one, the prefrontal cortex and the limbic system, we're going to get into here in a minute. And that's really, the prefrontal cortex is that executive part of our brain. Limbic system is the emotional part of our brain. So those two things are constantly playing off of each other. Unfortunately, a lot of times that limbic system is winning. That emotional part of our body, like cavewoman, man part of our brain is winning, and that's where we get some of that anxiety. Inflexibilities, sometimes when we get older, we just think we're just kind of stuck in our ways. A lot of it, is anxiety. It's those OCD tendencies, changes in routine, where we're just more likely to do our own thing. We don't like disruption in routines as much, and that can be a sign of some anxiety as well. High expectations, high strung, those classic like type A personalities that put a lot of pressure on themselves. And you might be one of them, or have definitely family members that are leaning more towards that. GI, these are the people that have anxiety, and they're always sick, and they have anxiety about always being sick. And you see how that loop goes around and around. The nervous stomach, whether that be in a relationship where if you're meeting that person, you're having that kind of feeling in your stomach, or maybe it's a boss, maybe it's a coworker going into work, logging in on Zoom, whatever it might be, where you feel a little unsettled, which obviously can create some digestive issues as well. And that brain-gut connection, that vagus nerve, that's so huge. Vagus nerve is a main brain-gut connector. It's also the main connector for our brain and our body, and it's the main calming part of our nervous system as well. So if there's stress there, there's interference in that vagus nerve, you're going to be prone to more anxiety. And the low self-esteem, confidence, that anxiety, depression kind of obviously plays off of each other. We're maybe not doing these things that we used to do. We're getting withdrawn a little bit, and energy goes down, and that's kind of that low self-esteem, kind of disappointed. And that's sometimes that tape we play in our head that we're not good enough, or I'm not this, or I'm not that, or I'm this, or I'm that. and that's the tape that we play in our head that we're finding out is kind of a default network in our brain. It's kind of a survival part of our brain too, that just says, oh, this is what we are. We don't have to think about this. We don't have to challenge ourselves. This is just who we are and how we view ourselves in the world. And that can get us into some of the anxiety type states as well. Tips and tools, again, tons of things out there. For us, movement, working out, going for a walk, getting away from the computer is obviously huge, not only releasing a lot of that feel-good chemicals, but just the proprioception. When we move our body, it gets good stimulus for the brain. It's calming for our brain. So it's kind of like you're stuck in an airplane and you're just like, I need to get out of here. It's like, oh, like my wife, it's like every time we have the plane, we like always tell each other like, oh, it feels so good to move. And that's why, because your body's finally getting some proprioception. Diet, this is another huge one. If we're eating a lot of high processed food, alcohol, caffeine, that can create a lot of anxiety. We have lots of people that cut out caffeine and they do a lot better because again, that's a mood kind of, awareness type thing. Less chaos. This could be in scheduling, overscheduling, your social calendar, saying yes to things that don't excite you, saying yes to things you feel obligated to do, and also to chaos within your work environment, within your home. If you're work from home and you have things laying around and it's very chaotic workspace, that's can create anxiety as well. My wife works from home and our house is super clean. And part of it because she likes a clean house, and part of it's just because when she looks around, it's calming for her to have everything nice and tidy and neat because she's there, sometimes 2 or 3 days in a row, 8 hours a day, 10 hours a day when she's working. And so having that workspace being less chaotic is something that's important too. So look into that. Screen time, again, well documented. Screen time and doom scrolling and trying to get that dopamine hit, and then we're putting our phone down, but then we're picking it up 10 minutes later, not who are we kidding, seconds later. They had some stat where like the average adult like looks at their phone like it's like crazy, like 100 and sometimes a day. And it's maybe even more than that, but that is a definite issue, especially right before bed when your nervous system is trying to shut down and calm, and we're looking in high movement and looking at things. So that can be an issue. And balanced nervous system. This is underlined because we feel like it's the most important. And we talk about that fight or flight, rest and relax. If your nervous system is not balanced, you're going to have a harder time calming. You're going to have a harder time processing things. You're going to have a harder time, doing a good job of perception of, danger or not danger. And that's where we come in. Through this center, this is one of the better books I've read in the last year or two, The Anxious Generation. I'm in the generation where we grew up without a lot of this technology or any of it. My first phone was in college, and we had the T9. Most of you people on this are probably too young for this, but T9 texting, where you had to hit certain numbers. It wasn't a keyboard. And so things were not as the technology. We grew up without it, but we adapted to it. A lot of young adults now, they don't know any different. They don't know a world without social media. They don't know a world without having this in their pocket and having access to it 24/7. This is a good book. It's kind of geared towards kids, but for adults too, it's a really good read. All right, so this is some of the technology, getting into some of this. So the neurological scans that we do, there's 3 of them. This one's HRV, heart rate variability. This gives us a big overall picture of how your nervous system is running. It'll tell us if you're stuck in that fight or flight. It will tell us if you have some battery power left. It'll tell us kind of how much gas you have in the tank. Do you have some reserves adaptability to those physical, chemical, mental stressors that we're constantly being bombarded with every day, all day? And so this is a good overall picture of kind of how the engine is running. It's a 3-minute finger test. All these are surface level stuff. So it's really great. We do it on everyone. Little kids, we might do just 1 or 2 just because we don't get as much information. But for adults, this is a good one. This one is a surface EMG. So it's measuring those little sensory muscles along your spine. And so we see when we're anxious, we know kind of some of the behaviors we exhibit. And again, back to that perception of danger problem that we have, your brain is only as good as the information it's getting. So this is really cool. This tells us, are we getting symmetrical, calm, energy information up into the brain so the brain can process that? Or are we getting very loud, chaotic, disorganized, dysregulated information, which the brain is going to spit back out dysregulation? And so it gives some numbers like this 823, that's really loud, so to speak, right? There's lots of noise going up into the brain. And so when you're trying to concentrate, when you're trying to have a conversation, when you're trying to work, you're not blaring AC/DC, right? You might have some background music that you don't really notice. When we have that loud blaring music all the time going up into our brain, it's a lot harder to process. It's like trying to parallel park with a van full of kids downtown Minneapolis. What do? You shut the radio off, you tell everybody to be quiet because you need to concentrate, right? And so this is with people that suffer from anxiety, a lot of times we see this elevated and it's not very symmetrical, meaning it's not pleasing to the brain, right? Lots of noise going up. So this is a good one we do for anxiety. And then this third one is specific areas of what we say overwhelm, stuck stress, where your body's having a lot of issues. And so this is a thermal, so think temperature. So for this one, C1, that's where vagus nerve lives. And that's the main calming part of our nervous system. We might have like a T7, T8 area, that's adrenal glands. And so if you have some adrenal fatigue, meaning you've been stressed out, your body just your adrenal glands get tired of pumping out all these cortisol and norepinephrine. Excuse me. So adrenal fatigue can show up sometimes in there too, because it's kind of that blown fuse in that adrenal glands as well. So between these three scans, we get a good picture of kind of, okay, where's our nervous system at as a whole? What's the brain being told from our body? And what are some specific areas where we need to unlock some of that stress? And we do that, and people have some really good results because we're very focused on what to do, what not to do. We're not going to adjust 15 things. We use these scans to adjust 1 to 3 things maybe, because we don't want to overwhelm a system that's already overwhelmed, right? So we need to go in, have a good influence, get out, and just that repeatability, it really helps people. Okay, so this is the prefrontal cortex. This is the whole premise of this whole thing, right? So the prefrontal cortex, as you can see, has its hands in a lot of different functions, right? And so every time we adjust, and this is proven by some research in Denmark, which is cool, we light up that prefrontal cortex. Okay, so if we can light up that prefrontal cortex and bring more nervous system awareness, we can have an effect on all these things. And so like we talked about earlier with that prefrontal cortex versus the limbic system. So the more awareness we have to the prefrontal cortex, which is decision control, it's movement, it's autonomic stuff, pain, all the stuff that you see here, then we can have some really good effects, and we can take away some of that power of the limbic system. The limbic system is great. We need it. It's a survival mechanism, but a lot of times that's getting triggered early and often. And that's like a muscle. The more that we use it, the more that the body's going to be looking to use it. And so with each adjustment, we can light up that prefrontal cortex, then we can make better decisions. We can be more flexible. Our immune system goes up, and we get to sleep, again, a huge thing there. So that's how we can help. That's how the chiropractic adjustment can help. And we use those scans to help guide the way. And they're kind of like our Google Maps, those scans are, because we recheck every 12 visits and say, hey, where are we at now? What are the scans showing us now? Because if we're doing it right, it will change and your nervous system will change. But prefrontal cortex, that's what chiropractic can do. That's how we can help with a lot of, not just anxiety, but a lot of different things. All right, so this is Xander. He comes in. He's part of our 200 adjustment club. Picture is just taken recently, so it's kind of fresh in our mind. But he also uses this as chiropractic as part of his kind of mental health, because he knows that when he gets adjusted regularly, he just feels better and can process things easier. So tonight we're doing $75. Usually it's like $150, I think. And that includes a phone consult, the scans, the exam, spending time with me, going through the exam, through the scans, interpreting those, and your first adjustment. Because we like to give that first adjustment we do this all the time within our new patient kind of intake, because we want you to experience it. We want you to sign up for, several adjustments when you don't have an experience it. So, and we're always happy to talk if this is you, if this is someone that you should hear this, please send them our stuff. You can text that number, you can call us, you can email us, continue the conversation. and we're here to help. So I appreciate you guys taking some time out of your busy schedule and listening in the last half hour or so and dealing with my voice. So appreciate you guys, and yeah, give us a call, give us a text. We're here to help.